Hello everyone, no one of consequence here, back again with a new video. I wanted to make a follow-up video about the controversy surrounding WotC's recent treatment of Gary Gygax, Elon Musk's response, and the new developments since then. So, just to review, this is Jason Tondro, who is a senior designer at Wizards of the Coast. He was also the project lead for this book, The Making of Original Dungeons and Dragons. Now, the book itself is fine, but what got a lot of people upset was the preface to the book, which Tondro wrote. Now, I've already made a couple of videos which take a deep dive into the problems with the preface, so you can watch those if you haven't yet. But for this video, I want to highlight these few sentences from the preface. Sorry for the quality of the images, they're screenshots of screenshots. He says, but that game content also includes a virtual catalog of insensitive and derogatory language, words that are casually hurtful to anyone with a physical or mental disability, or who happen to be old, fat, not conventionally attractive, indigenous, black, or a woman. Tondro then writes, some people have charitably ascribed this language to authors working from bad assumptions. But then he goes on to spend the next page and a half explaining why you shouldn't take this charitable view. Again, I've already made a few videos explaining why he's wrong about this, so you can review those if you want. The book was released in June of 2024, and the controversy surrounding the preface has been simmering out there in the gaming community ever since. However, it recently exploded onto the mainstream when Elon Musk himself became aware of it. I should point out here that Elon Musk is in fact a gamer, both ttrpgs and computer games. He tweeted this out in late November, and it has dominated gaming news since then. I made a video about this last week, so you can go back and view that one if you haven't seen it yet. More recently, Musk put out this tweet. How much is Hasbro? Now, no one can say for certain how serious he is about this. He may not be serious at all, but with him you just never know. However, it would be safe to say that buying Hasbro would be chump change compared to what he paid for Twitter. Meanwhile, someone recently asked Jason Tondro if he, or anyone else at WotC, had foreseen the backlash to his preface in that book. He replied, early in the book's development, the marketing team asked me what sorts of critiques we should expect and prepare for. And I and the editors agreed that the problem is going to be from progressives and people from underrepresented groups who justly took offense at the language of OD&D. I didn't write the preface until late, and I wrote it to address these concerns. It never occurred to me I'd rouse the ire of the grognards. It's obvious now that I look back on it, but I just don't take those critiques seriously even now. Now, he could have just stopped there. He had made his point, and he could have just left it at that. But no, he had to close by saying this. I consider those people not worth listening to, so I didn't anticipate their, quote, outrage. Now, my reaction?
Oh!
Way to double down and further insult a sizable portion of your market, most of whom probably have the disposable income to pay the $80 for that book. Now, I realize that old school gamers like me are not the target demographic for the newest version of Dungeons & Dragons. But this book was, I assume, supposed to be for everyone, perhaps even especially for the grognards. And, on its own, it is. However, after the book was completed, Tondro had to shit all over it by explaining why the game's original creators are bad people. And, if you still like the original version of the game then, by extension, you're a bad person too. I guess he thought he could virtue signal to the progressives, but the grognards would still happily hand over their $80 to get access to all the OD&D material contained in the book. Well, if he did guess that, he guessed wrong. And it didn't take long for YouTube creators to react to this most recent insult towards old school gamers. For example, we have Diversity in Dragons. Wizards of the Coast despises D&D's creator. The RPG Pundit, D&D lead, hates normal D&D gamers. Clownfish, D&D senior designer, disparages old school gamers. Tankar's Tavern, Jason Tondro states, I consider those people not worth listening to. Dracoya and the Pickled Dragon, WotC says concerns of old-time D&D fans shouldn't be taken seriously. And these are just videos I know about and have watched. I'm sure there are plenty of others. More recently, Tondro followed up with this post. Now, I do not approve of name-calling like this, and I don't want anyone watching this video to reach out to Tondro. At least, not if you're angry at him. If you agree with his position, then feel free to offer him support. He can probably use it right now. Anyway, moving on, Ian Miles Chong had this to say about the whole controversy. RIP Dungeons & Dragons. Jason Tondro, the project lead of D&D and senior designer at Hasbro's Wizards of the Coast, explains that the intended audience is woke and that WotC doesn't give a damn about what Elon Musk or any other grognard, a slur for old school players, thinks. Now, just an aside, I disagree with the claim that the term grognard is a slur. It used to be applied only to old tabletop wargamers, but it has since been expanded to include old tabletop role-playing gamers as well. Next, someone calling themselves Dragon Slayers UK tweeted this. The game has evolved to meet the needs of its audiences. It isn't chess, it's a gaming phenomenon that's lasted for 50 years, and you're part of the celebration. To which Rob Kuntz replied, haha, no. Now, if you don't know who Rob Kuntz is, I made a video all about that as well. Suffice it to say here, he is the last man standing among all the original D&D creators. Then, Neon from Clownfish TV chimed in by saying, Robert Kuntz, one of the OG Dungeons & Dragons creators, doesn't seem to think too much about the current iteration of D&D or the modern audience that plays it. And no, he isn't part of the celebration. WotC celebrated the 50th anniversary of the game by low-key denigrating the very people who made it. Neon then followed up with this. The game has evolved to appeal solely to theater kids and Tumblr users. Fixed it. Then, Rob Kuntz quickly replied by saying, Thank you, Neon. When I come on your podcast, I will detail the descent of D&D and the gradual ostracizing of Gary and myself from the equation, an attempted mending of that by Paizo, and then back on track to nowhere. It's a fitful, tragic ride, which apparently has a final sign ahead. Hereat lies ingratitude. So clearly, Rob Kuntz will soon be appearing on Clownfish TV, and I look forward to hearing what he has to say about all this. In the meantime, one of my gaming groups has gifted me a copy of that History of D&D book. I was not planning to buy it for myself because I didn't want to give WotC any money. However, I will certainly accept it as a gift. When the book first came out last summer, I was listening in on, I think it was a Diversity in Dragons live stream. They were talking about the book and its price, and I commented with something like, I'll bet the book will be in the bargain bin by Christmas. And sure enough, the book dropped to half price last week. Anyway, I look forward to picking this book apart, looking for more examples by which I can defend Gary Gygax and the other original creators just as thoroughly as WotC picked it apart, looking for examples by which to disparage them. Alright, well that's all I have for now. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. Feel free to leave a comment, let me know what you think. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. If you know of a good place, please share the video. And anything you can do to help support the channel, I appreciate it. Thanks again. Bye for now.